Good evening. It being on or after 7 p.m. on April 16th, I'm going to open a meeting of the Georgetown Conservation Commission. And let's see, we have a number of hearings on the agenda this evening, and the first applicant I do not see, so we'll address some other business issues. And I think the first one we will discuss is One Industrial Way.
Good evening, Chip Nyland representing the applicant. I'm hoping this can be rather quick, just to clarify a matter. When we were here the last meeting, it was a three-prong approach to that we're going to file a notice of intent to move the wall. The board is going to articulate how the process you went through to get there in terms of showing that that there clearly is a detriment to doing work before asking for a permit, and we were going to pay a penalty. My understanding was that the penalty that we agreed to collectively would be at the conclusion of the process. I got a note that said I could write the check out to the town, and if that was the case, I would have to appeal that and wait for the process to go forward for the wall, because we consider this to be a global settlement in terms of approaching this.
Right,
So,
but I consider it to be an enforcement order.
right.
So, I mean, it's not really up for discussion in that sense. We're trying to work with you, but I mean, if everyone could negotiate when and how they pay the fines, I mean, we may not get the fine at all. The payment may not come. Work gets done, we don't get the fund.
Well, I wouldn't have any problem putting that in escrow or however you want to do that, but what we did is we agreed to an amount. What I don't want to have happen is we agreed, the same issue that you have, we agreed to an amount and then the wall is not approved, and then I'm left paying a penalty without having it resolved. So maybe that's a way that we could, put it in an escrow so that you would know that you were going to get paid, and then we would go through the process.
Well, that kind of wasn't my understanding. I mean, I can kind of ask the board. I mean, my understanding is this was a fine. And when you get fined, normally you pay that fine. You don't kind of say, well, I'll pay it contingent upon this. You pay it. And that was part of the mitigation for allowing these incursions to occur.
Well,
That was my understanding.
Well, it was we talked about everything together. We didn't separate out. We talked about everything as I consider it to be, and again, that's why I'm here tonight, because there's obviously a misunderstanding. We walked away believing that this was going to be all together, and you perhaps had a different opinion.
Well, I'll ask the board. I mean, what was your,
Yeah, I just assumed we would be, getting the money up front. Is this a financial hardship? It doesn't sound like it is. From the,
Well, yeah, and $15,000 with all of the money that's going to be spent in order to remove that wall and to construct. Yes, it's not something, he doesn't have that kind of walking around money, if that's what your question is.
well, is it inconvenience, not a good time, or is it really a hardship? I mean, he can't meet salaries or payrolls or whatever. I could understand that. If he can't meet payroll, then that might be a talking point, I think, but,
Well, we didn't, there are allegations that have been made. When we agreed to a penalty, then we're admitting that there was a violation, we're paying for that. Normally, if there's a violation, I'm able to appeal that decision, and I can contest whether or not you have the ability to make that. We, in an interest of, I thought, cooperation, were agreeing to that amount, and that the wall would then be moved. So we considered it to be, same part of the same agreement rather than something that was separate.
and I think of some of the penalties that have been,
well, I mean, some of the discussion also centered around the fact that these activities occurred maybe back in '96, and that could have been fined all the way back from that point. And the fines, if that would have been the case, would have been astronomical. And although 15,000 is not insignificant, it's a far cry from what the commission potentially could have done.
Well, you didn't have the authority to fine until 2003.
Well, that's your
I
opinion.
mean, well, you didn't have a bylaw. I mean, you can't, the commission doesn't have the authority to fine. I wrote my bylaw in my town. I mean, I know it's clearly, you could go back to 2003, you couldn't go back to
We
1996.
had a bylaw before 2003. We didn't have regulations.
We've
Please
been,
clarify that.
we've been through that,
I've been here
yes.
since then, sir,
Yes.
and I'm well aware of that. Okay?
And you didn't, right, and you didn't have
Have
the,
it- we
you
had a
didn't
bylaw.
have until 2003 the regulations that made what we did a violation.
The original order, though,
The-
from '96, it was in violation from day one from that order. I mean,
Let's
we've
not
been
let's not
circular
rehash this whole thing
100
again,
times.
okay? Let's agree.
I'm trying to find a way that you can, we can
My
settle your
understanding when we,
concern.
just to let me, my understanding when we issue, an enforcement order and we issue any fines associated with those are paid up front. I mean, that's just how I've always operated. We've had other cases that have been, had significant fines too, and actually it's been mandated that they pay them within like a week, right up front. So it's not like, well, we'll get around to it at some point. That's just by my interpretation. I mean, again, I'm asking the board kind of what your understanding was when we discussed this. That was mine.
That's also in line with the precedents in the past. It's always been pay within a month, things like that. I couldn't come across any of the fines that were, collect them at some later date, contingent on something else happening.
I guess I'm trying to understand what the purpose of putting the money in escrow for.
Well, you indicated that you were concerned that we weren't gonna pay, that we would go through the process and
Well,
that you
sure,
would get
there's
paid.
always
Yeah,
that,
so-
there's always a
so
concern.
I was trying to allay that concern by actually giving you the money to be held in escrow, and then upon the approval, then I don't want you to ever think that we're gonna walk away from that.
So I think the two things that, there was a discussion about whether are you gonna file a notice of intent? I heard you say that earlier.
Yeah.
We had a conversation that was,
We,
Somewhat different.
yeah, we indicated that we would prefer to file it under the enforcement, do everything under the enforcement. You want to make sure that there's a public notice and butters are notified,
Right.
and we agreed to that. So that was second. I think you made it clear that I think you want a notice of intent.
Yes,
So
sir.
I think that was agreed to, so.
so it's really just, the EO the fine, within a month or at the end of the process sounds like really the outstanding kind of question that's on the table. And again, I think everyone here has been involved pretty much from the beginning as far as all the specifics. I don't know how much we really need to kind of look at the history of it. It's more just kind of yes or no on that.
I don't know, short of financial hardship, I would have to say we'd keep with precedent. I mean, that only makes sense. We're consistent about that.
That's how I feel too.
Yeah, I mean, I've never seen a case where the fine's paid after the work. It's usually paid from my 15+ years of experience, it's paid up front. Or whenever the commission specifies, which is usually fairly soon after the EO is issued, especially if the EO is modified and fines are added to that EO. If the commission wants to modify the EO, it certainly can at any point along the way. But that was my understanding.
So my last question is, are we working then, there's only been one EO that's been issued,
Correct.
correct? So
Correct.
that's what we're working from?
Correct, yeah. And that EO was, I think we've modified it from the
Yeah.
initial EO. And I think there only needs to be one EO.
Okay, well, we'll work from your vote from 2 weeks ago. It's still our intent to,
Do you want to put a
File.
timeline on when the fines will be sent in? It's already been a month since our last meeting.
Do you have any idea when, excuse me?
When they're filing?
Well, yeah, filing the notice of intent, but also paying the fine.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
give it a month to pay the fine and a month to file it.
I mean, I
it's been
give,
a
I
month
give you,
already.
I give you 30 days. That's again 2 months out from when we had this discussion initially.
well, I think that Steve will affirm that as soon as he brought to my attention, he was looking for it, I brought to his and asked that I be able to speak to. So I wasn't attempting to walk away from that, I just needed
Yeah,
that to be clarified.
I understand. It's just,
so.
again, I think we just had maybe a slight miscommunication on that, but again, it's not our intent to to collect a fine and then say no. I mean, we haven't done that. You know, our track record has never been to do that. Otherwise, we wouldn't even have entertained this whole process.
Well, thank you for your time.
I mean, we want to resolve it too. Thank you.
Thanks.
211 is here, Carl.
Okay. It being on or after 7 o'clock, I'm going to reopen notice of minutes for 211 Pond Street, GCC 2014-24, and that's a residence under local jurisdiction enforcement order. I can have the applicant or consultant, and if you could identify yourself, please, for the
Good
record.
evening. My name's Rob Alderman with ANS Land Services, representing Pimentals, or the homeowners. So, last we spoke was in January, and there were some requests to have bounds laid out 55 feet from the from the wetlands line, topography added, which we've done, and to coordinate with Steve on creating a planting plan to provide some sort of restoration to the buffer areas that were illegally cleared. So what we have here,
I guess, how was it modified from the first plan that we saw?
so the first plan, what we had was we were just going to take this gravel area out and replant it with native grasses and a few shrubs. Upon second look, Commission noticed that this was all cleared as well, and you had requested that the some sort of restoration be put in place. So what we've done is we've incorporated planting areas that's outlined in pink in this area, and then also on this area.
Down in the front corner, yeah.
Yep. And it basically comes out to the 100-foot buffer on the north side and kind of wedges out to the 75.
Are there no cut bounds along that same line?
They are, all right, so right here, this green line here,
Yeah.
that's the fence, and that's the same. A few modifications to the end. We pushed the fence back.
So we are talking about granite bounds, not fence bounds, correct?
Correct.
Right. You can put a fence there, but
Yeah, the fence will be in front of the bounds, and they will be,
we obviously want bounds for the long term, you know, so.
right, and there'll be bounds with placards, the official placards.
Now,
that
as
you
far
guys
as
have.
actually the planting plan and scheduling, what kind of items you're gonna be putting in there? Do you have any idea at this
Yes, I
point?
do, actually, oops.
I mean, obviously, the yard was
Did you
completely,
guys get any narrative?
Yeah, I sent that this morning.
I have
late-
copies
late
here,
morning when I got
if
it.
you guys need any. Anybody need one?
I'd
I'll
love
take a look
one.
at it. Again, I left it at work.
So there's a narrative in a reduced size site plan here.
Okay, so, can you, I'm just kind of curious, so there's a difference between this pink line and this fence line, so this is where the permanent no cut bounds will be placed.
That's correct.
What is the difference between this line and this line? What is this line?
So in this area, what we're looking to do is to do kind of just larger species trees, red maple, black birch, and kind of make it like a gladed area. So we're gonna put larger vegetation in there. And then on the back side of the fence, we're also gonna be putting the same trees, or trees at the same spacing, the same species, and adding to that shrub species and native grasses. So some sort of seeding mix, and I was gonna leave that up to Steve to make a recommendation on what he'd like to see out there. So that's the north side, and then, another feature here, part of the I call the high density area that's in the back, and then a low density area here in the front. Along the gravel driveway that we're gonna be replacing, what we're gonna do is instead of having the wood stockade fence. We're gonna do a post and rail along here, and then we'll plant a berry patch in here. Wild strawberries, blueberries, and wild red raspberries.
And what is the distance now from where that area you're gonna pave or replant rather, I should say?
The buffers are on the plan, so 50, 75, 100 are those
Yep.
three
100,
arcs.
75, 50.
So most of what we're concerned about is kind of the grading within the 50 would be waivers to the regulations. And so with this plan, it's kind of moving everything outside that 50.
Yeah, really the only earthwork that's going to be done is to remove the gravel material, the gravel driveway material, which is why that's where we have the silt sock in place here. The rest of it will be just planting whips and some plugs for the strawberries.
Strawberries, raspberries, and what?
Blueberries.
Blueberries.
So you're kind of going with the approach of planting through the grass and then leaving it alone and just letting kind of nature take its course.
Are you talking about this area?
No, that's gonna be that's gonna be kind of maintained as grass below the trees. I guess.
Right. It's
More the other areas. like-
Because, I mean, that lot obviously was fully treed, they're pretty mature trees back there
Yeah.
originally. But that's,
I looked at the Google Earth. If you look at Google Earth, they have the timeline feature, and you can see 2013. There's a version 2013 aerial photo, and it actually shows where he cleared out from, and it's pretty much right out to the 100-foot buffer. Same thing on this side. It's just about 10 feet shy of the driveway is where he went. So you can actually see if you go on Google
oh yeah,
Earth.
I went by it many, many times before it was
Yeah.
cleared out, so.
So you have a good idea,
Oh, I know it's-
what was
yeah.
there
Oh, yeah.
before. So we're hoping that we get what we're proposing is sufficient area-wise. We're looking to do some really dense vegetation behind the fence. Same thing in here. So I don't know what kind of shrub. I think what's really going to provide the dense vegetation is going to be the shrub. So whatever we pick for a shrub.
How big are the trees you're putting in?
Well, they're just whips, so they're just 24-inch. They'll grow into maturity.
But they're 25 feet apart.
Yes, that's what Steve had recommended for spacing.
Worried about
I mean, you can put
some dying and have
So there's
big
there's an
camps.
80% survival rate they have to maintain.
Okay.
So often you can plant a couple extra, presuming a few won't make
Right.
it, or you just have to go back. So it's for 3 years they have to keep an eye on it and report back and maintain an 80% viable rate, so
All right.
viability rate. That's kind of the standard
Right,
restoration, planting, mitigation type of standards we use.
that's right, for 3 years is very standard.
The area that you're gonna do the raspberries and strawberries and blueberries, is it wet or is it?
No,
It's good, it's
Upland.
upland.
yeah. I mean, it's gravel driveway right now, and it's.
But you're gonna
pretty-
take that out.
Yes, we're taking the gravel driveway out. So pretty much the gravel driveway will abut the post and rail fence, and behind the post and rail fence will be the berry patch. There'll be a little opening in the fence so they can go pick their berries for Saturday morning pancakes or something like that. I guess that's kind of the idea.
The sizes on the maple and the birch is 24-inch,
Mm-hmm.
is that
Well, 24-inch tall whips.
24-inch tall?
Yeah,
That's what I thought.
the whips are they're very small diameter. They're
Hmm.
young trees.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think in that area, originally there were quite a few, there was quite a few oak in there too.
We can add oak into the mix.
And often we kind of figure out the actual list of plants and stuff closer to when that work is gonna be done, just for
Yeah, and
availability and stuff like that.
That's right, I mean, it's not
Right.
that, it's not that.
Yeah,
critical.
it's easy to diversify.
So before they actually,
Make the order.
a month before they put the order in, they'll reach out to me and we'll kind of discuss what they're gonna plant. So this, again, it's to give a concept of what will be done and we kind of work out the details real time.
Any other comments from commissioners?
I just asked where the Parker, doesn't the Parker go pretty close to that property?
No, the Parker is way off this way, at least a
All right, I'm
mile.
thinking.
Yeah, you have to go all the way down to,
Back of the Alsons property.
Oh, yes, right.
Yeah.
or down Pond Street further to Mill Street, and,
Right.
Mhm.
yeah, it's quite a ways.
I guess if you're gonna be doing the 2-foot whips, unless you're gonna be protecting them from deer, not too many of them are gonna survive, so it seems like you should overplant.
Maybe like every 10 or 15 feet, presuming a couple will not make it.
Sure.
I mean, they're
Yeah.
cheap enough at that point. You
Yeah.
buy a bundle of a dozen.
Right.
Yeah,
and
they're-
you
Yeah,
almost
they
can't
usually
get them
come
under
in
a dozen.
bundles of, yeah.
Right,
25.
they're really cheap. They're like
Yeah.
$10 a whip, so you know we don't have any problem if
Yeah, we
it's
could-
gonna push it through faster, adding to the
We could
density.
double the tree plantings. I mean,
And again, I think you can adjust that when you get closer to it in the field type situation, where you
Yep.
can look at and look at how they are spaced.
I'll want to make sure that we're not going over any recommended planting densities before, so we make sure that you know good bunch of them will survive. We don't want them too dense.
Well, at that size, too dense,
it's not
Yeah,
a
but
problem.
when they grow up, though,
right. Well, you
They'll
can,
be competing with each other.
But if they do in fact survive the first 10 years, you know, because a deer could take a bite and it's gone. You can always thin them and use them as firewood or whatever, or would that
well,
be
the
an
ones
issue then?
the ones that are going to be planted on the
I don't want
backs,
them cut down for firewood.
Yeah.
the ones that will be planted on the backside
kind
of
of
the
no
fence
cut- no
are going to
cut,
be
yeah.
a lot more exposed to deer.
Yeah.
But this is going to be a 6-foot stockade fence, and deer are going to have a little trouble getting through that.
Deer can't jump.
It's a 16,
They could
16 foot stockade fence,
16
maybe
foot,
they
yeah.
can't jump
they
it,
can
but.
jump 10 feet without thinking twice.
Yeah, that's true. But they'll be more protected on the
Yeah.
other side.
The other
at
thing is, anything
least.
will get replanted. If they get mowed down, then they'll have to replant them and
Right, 'cause
put
they
a
have
chicken
to-
wire around it. You know, the more it
Yeah.
becomes an issue.
Right.
Little
They're-
winter
It's in their
protection
advantage
would
to
be
keep them
good.
alive, because they're gonna have to pay
Right.
to do it again.
Yeah.
So maybe they'll put up some protection right up from day one. Keep the rabbits out, keep the deer out, 3 feet up. It can't hurt.
Any other comments? I don't know, we never did hear from the tree company, did we, as to why they, did this in the first place?
Without a permit.
Yeah, I mean, this happens time and time again, it's like, gee, I didn't know, it's like, well, that excuse got used up 10 years ago,
Right.
if you're in this business.
It's a classic.
I didn't know my job. Especially when the same one comes before us over and over again, so.
So considering this started as kind of more of an enforcement, they worked with us, they pushed it back. I think it's a reasonable plan.
Yeah.
Kind of the balance between them trying to use their property a little bit more and trying to meet the regulations, so.
Yeah, and the most of the reason why we did like a low density area in the yard was to just make it so they can still use that area as they wanted, but we are providing the vegetation that's gonna.
But
Yeah.
right, I want the vegetation back, another reason, because,
Yeah.
again, that was a forested area, there was wetland near the forest, now all of a sudden it's completely open, again, that changes the characteristic of really that wetland now, because now it's got all this sun, and so I think it's important to get some vegetation back in that area.
So what's the plan revision on this? Is it
This is-
416?
Yes, revision 1.
Are there any butters to 211 Pond Street out there?
Here for the next case.
Seeing none, so noted. And, let's see, we have, DEP numbers, we've got everything. Anyone have any further issues with this NOI? No? I'll entertain a motion if someone would like to make one or not.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve 211 Pond Street, GCC 2014-24, DEP 1610796, as presented on the plan as discussed today. revision 1. Is there a date on this?
Yes, 4/16/2015.
4/16/2015.
Correct, today's date.
I second the
We have
motion.
a motion, it's been seconded to approve the notice of intent as presented, and noting the plan 4/16/2015, and that's tax map 12, lot 30. Is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? All abstaining? Okay, motion carries. I'll entertain a motion to close the notice of intent for 211 Pond Street.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to close the, notice of intent for 211 Pond Street, JCC 2014-24.
Grab that full-size plan.
We have a motion and it's been seconded to close the notice of intent for 211 Pond Street, GCC 2014-24. Is there any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? All abstaining? Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you. You're welcome. All right, that's done. And let's see. Let's see, Central Street, we're continuing that, aren't we?
Yep, it's open and continue.
So it being on or after 7:15, I'm going to open 175 Central Street, GCC 2014-25, septic system repair, replacement and repair of existing building. And we've been requested to continue this as the applicant isn't here. Do we have a date? I see May 14th, June 18th. Any preference?
I haven't heard from them on when. I just go to next month. It's not hard administratively to continue it once we get to it. So I just do May 14th at say 7 o'clock.
I'll entertain a motion to continue to May 14.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we continue 175 Central Street, GCC 2014-25, DEP 1610797 until May 14th at 7 PM.
We have a motion, it's been seconded to continue 175 Central Street to May 14th at 7 PM. Is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? All abstaining? Thank you.
We have 5 minutes till the next hearing.
Do we have any,
Oh, yes.
oh, actually, we have some other issues to discuss.
So the workshop and the woods contract, I'm still waiting on their insurance policy, so I'm not comfortable signing that contract as of yet.
Since we've got, a new folks running that operation, we definitely want to see the insurance. I didn't have any substantive changes to the contract per se, but we do want to make sure.
We should have a
Yeah,
certificate of insurance with $1 million on it.
yeah, and there's still plenty of time.
Yeah.
And hopefully they can get that to us by the next meeting.
Also, the open space plan
Has
has
it-
been out for a bit.
Right, has anyone had any further look-sees at the plan? I know I submitted some comments for, and I think Laura may have submitted some as
She did.
well.
Lilibeth has given some feedback also, offline, so I've gotten a good amount of feedback. So what I was hoping to kind of get guidance from the commission is at this point, I'll be honest, I haven't done much of the heavy lifting lately because we hired a consultant. I've read through it, I have my own opinions, but it sounds like you guys are in line with some of my things I would like to tweak and add and modify. So if it's okay with the commission, Susan and I will pick it up and start modifying it based on some of the things that I've heard you guys talk
Yeah,
about.
and if,
And then,
yeah, right,
Get some feedback from you at the next meeting.
that's
once
where
it's refined.
that's where I'd like to go with this, and if necessary, we could use some of our funds. If you're unable to make the changes, we could pursue that venue as well.
So the money originally came from CPC. That money is pretty much gone at this point because so many revisions and so much work's been done on it. So any more heavy lifting the consultant has to do, we have to come up with more money. We do have a fund, the conservation fund from years ago that is used for purposes like this. So, my plan to be kind of highlight some of the things that the commission's looking for, get some of the comments you've given me in writing so that we can forward those on to the consultant, get an estimate for,
So, yeah.
might get another $1,000 to kind of.
I think that's an important
Cross the
concept,
commission.
is to make sure, Steve
put
gets them
things
in
in
writing.
writing.
I mean, even if it's just an email or just jotting them out,
Yeah,
bulletized.
I'll just bulletize the concepts.
kind of where you want it to go. I mean, I think, many of us would like to see some added elements into
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, there were a
Not to
few
take
things
away,
I
but
thought.
add some things to it, so.
So we should just put them in, email them to you.
Yep, I got some comments from Carl and Laura. Most of the stuff you and I have talked about, you know, if you want to put them into an email or bulletize them, or just remind me what they are and I'll write them down one of these days.
All right,
Because-
I can just send you an email.
Yeah, that'd be
Because-
perfect.
I don't want this process to take, a year. I'd like it, I'd like it to move forward and,
Yeah.
to be fair to everyone. So, let's get the comments in and, so we can get the changes done and, as necessary.
So we'll start.
I'll have an email to you within a week.
Perfect, perfect.
With
Thank you.
it.
In
I've-
writing
I've
is always
gone
helpful.
part of the way through it, but not all the way through.
It's a big document.
Yeah,
It's a
yeah.
lot to digest.
It's a learning, for me, it was a learning experience. It took
But
me
The thing that struck me, I went to the back, the goals and strategies, and there's like 3 categories, A being within 3 years. There's a ton of them, and I'm just wondering the resource, I forget the
That's
money,
when all
but the
happened.
people resource.
Yeah.
I'm just saying,
It's kind of a
wow.
wish list. And again, by the next version, we'll say, yeah, we completed these 4 and the other 8 didn't get done. And it's just, it's a work in progress. I don't think anyone expects that whole list to get done. It's just kind of letting the town realize what our goals are. If you don't kind of say what they are, then you never get them, they never get
I
done.
think I'd add another column, but what I'm familiar with would be the status.
Yep.
Where are you today? If we do a quarterly.
In progress,
It's in
yeah.
progress.
But, what I wanna see is a balanced plan. This is an open space and recreation plan, so there should be
Right.
equal elements on
Right.
both. I wanna make sure it's got what it needs to have and it's balanced.
Okay, cool. So I'll make that happen. Other discussion item that I added, we had talked about this before, CPC right now, I know Lilibeth has expressed interest in maybe sitting on the CPC. Carl has been on it forever, and again, he's on it more by
My-
default. signing,
By default, but my appointment technically expired more than once a year ago.
Yeah.
So
So the commission would just need to vote on.
I don't have the
a new
time
member.
anyways for it.
And again, if Lilibeth, you are interested in sitting on that, we could vote you in tonight, and I'll send out the emails Monday, Tuesday or Wednesday, and get you sworn in and good to go.
Okay.
Anyone interested in making a motion to appoint Lilibeth to the CPC as the Concom designee?
I would like to make a motion to appoint Lilibeth to the CCC.
CPC.
CPC.
I'll second the motion.
For life.
Double second. There's been a motion and it's been seconded to appoint Lilibeth to the CPC, to be the representative of the Concom. Is there any further discussion? And as I recall, those terms are typically a year. You have to redo them every year. They're not a 3-year term.
You know what day it usually meets?
Tuesdays.
But being on the board, on the group, you can weigh in on, if it's a horrible day for you and you can't make it, you can work with them and try to see what they can
Not
tweak
likely.
it.
But, yeah, you could always request that. I mean, it's typically, again, it's by consensus of, where everyone else's boards fall on. That's really kind of how it evolved to that day, based on what other folks are doing. Is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, all opposed, all abstaining?
Congratulations.
Good luck.
And then we're good to go on the 7:30.
Okay. It being on or after 7:30, I'm going to open up let's see, is this,
It's a continuation.
6474
Correct.
East Main Street, GCC 2015-03. That's to install structures associated with the voluntary upgrade of a sanitary disposal system and to conduct grading with 100 feet of a BBW and 200 feet of riverfront. And that's a continuation request as well.
Yes, sir. This is the project that we're
Yep,
kind of
yep.
waiting on Board of Health to sign off.
Yep.
So again.
Do recall it.
May 14th,
7:15.
7:15 would be perfect.
Do we have a motion to continue?
I'll entertain a motion. For 6474 East Main Street, GCC 2015-03. DEP number 1610802.
Second the motion.
We have a motion, it's been seconded to continue the notice of intent for 64 to 74 East Main Street to May 14th at
7:15.
7:15. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All abstaining? Thank you. And, let's see, I guess we're past 7:40. So it being after 7:40, I'm going to open up a new notice of intent for 269 Central Street, GCC 2014-04, and this is a miniature golf course and cafe. If I could have the applicant and or consultants, and if you can identify yourself for the record, please.
Frank DeLuna of Merthyr Carolina,
Thank you.
representing Noonan's.
Good evening, Mr. Chair.
Good evening.
I'm Scott Cameron, Good Morning Family Group, 447 Boston Street in Topsfield, Mass. For the civil engineering consultant for the project.
Okay.
And the Noonan, the Flynns are here, the owners of Noonan's, as you well know. This is a project a little bit unique, but as I tell my clients, it's not your grandfather's farm anymore. And in order to enhance the farm,
Just let me stop you for a second. Do we have a green cards? Oh, you got them, okay. Sorry about that, go ahead.
not a
Continue.
problem. In order to enhance the farm and to make it more viable, they're diversifying into a agritourism. Agritourism is an accepted agricultural practice on farms. The agritourism addition to Noonan's Nursery is going to be a restaurant, which is outside of the jurisdictional area.
Agro-tourism, is that a new word?
There's a whole section in the 1915 Farm Bill on agritourism.
Okay, I'm just never heard the term, but that's okay.
But what is in your jurisdictional area is part of the miniature golf. Now, it's not solely a miniature golf platform. You can go miniature golfing, but all the specimen vegetation in the area is for sale. So it's all marked. It's an opportunity for people to see what their plants will look like together in season and out of season. It's a unique marketing tool. And it still is part of the agricultural operation of Noonan's. I'll let Scott take the details. You're more interested in what he has to say than I do. Go ahead, Scott.
So we include in your packet a set of plans. What I'd like to do is walk you through them tonight, and I brought some other graphics for you to go through, just to clarify some of the other documents in your packets and and the plans. So I'll go straight to the existing site conditions. This is a survey conducted by DEP Survey Group in 2013. Wetland delineation was by Kurt Young, wetlands preservation, and you can see the existing site. The bottom of your plan page is Central Street, Route 97. You have the 9.1 acre parcel, which has kind of a little flag projection on the end here, but relatively square, fronting on Central Street, north being in that direction. Property sits in the Residence B and the Residence C zoning district, runs right down the middle, and also has the water resource boundary, which we compiled from the assessor's map on this portion of it. Those are more planning matters, but I'll call those to your attention. The jurisdictional area we're talking about here, and I'll walk you through the rest of the property that's outside it, is you can see the kind of wetland projecting up into the property here, which I highlighted in a darker kind of forest green color. The dotted blue line here represents the limit of the zone AE, actually, elevation 93, and the orange line represents the 100-foot buffer zone on the property. There's also some off-site wetlands on the other side of the railway easement, and the 100-foot buffer zone projects onto the site across that easement. The pink line, for your reference, would be the 50-foot. Okay, and this color scheme will be consistent throughout the plans as I walk you through them. So I'm sure most of you are familiar with the site. It's been here for a long time. You have photos showing it there as long ago as 1939. And your access coming in, you have your main parking area down here. Asphalt, striped. There's often display of the products, plantings and flowers for sale here. Your main garden center is here. You have greenhouses throughout the property. You have more open area here for inventory storage. And they use the rest of the site throughout all these areas that I've shaded in green for either growing products or storing products or agricultural related uses. There's quite an obvious break in the wetland here where at some point this was filled in. So on this edge, you can see a clear-cut drop-off of about 6 feet from the usable area down towards the wetland. It's quite distinct. And they're using, for all intents and purposes, all that area right up to the top of the slope, which obviously was right up to the wetland edge. The site is encumbered by a drainage main that the Flynn's allowed the town to put in 20 or more years ago. This picks up runoff from an off-site area. About 82% of the water coming through this pipe is from off-site area, from other town areas. Runs through the property. It does pick up a little bit of the site runoff here. But again, the majority of the flow coming through this is municipal. There's another catch basin here that collects runoff from about this portion of the site, and that discharges out into the wetlands. So both of these discharge out into the wetlands now in existing condition. We were going through this initially. We did notice that the ends of these pipes were a little silted up. They haven't been maintained. What's been great about maintaining them, so they did clean these out so we could get into them. We did a camera inspection of all the pipes and verified the connectivity conditions, because it's a little bit spaghetti. As you can see, the irregular straight lines underground there. That's the existing condition of the property. Most of the mulch and the snow stockpile in the winter occur up in this area of the property, well away from your buffer zone. So again, keep in mind the orange line is the 100-foot buffer. The project before you this evening on the application, as Attorney Luna pointed out, is a miniature golf course, and we've highlighted that here on the plans. I have a larger blow-up of it I'll walk through, but you can see the portion of it that's within the buffer zone is right here, this far corner of it. The project itself outside the buffer zone will include reconstruction of the parking area here. So this will be areas of adjusting the grades, filling, and repaving, restriping, making it safer for pedestrian access and vehicular access, as well as emergency vehicle access, in full compliance with the zoning bylaw. The stormwater I'll go through in the next plan, but we've cited some stormwater features that fall, what is the low point. Everything is kind of flowing towards this area, so we did include some stormwater features, which I'll go through next in the buffer zone. And you can see the light green would be portraying the limit of work of the project.
It looks like some of the work is slightly closer than the 50, am I seeing that right?
Yes, yep, and I'll go through that with you, but entirely within the footprint of the existing property. And I'll explain why we're in that area here. So the next plan you're set is the grading and utility plan. So, of course, it's a commercial use, following the water management handbook. So we designed the project to comply fully with the stormwater management standards. What will entail outside of your buffer zone is this section of the municipal pipe here. They've offered to repair that. It's not in great shape. It's a hodgepodge of different pipes, as it looks like they've pieced it together over the years. Repairing that pipe, retrofitting the existing outfall from the portion of the property that's picking up most of the pavement runoff and bringing it down out towards the wetland with a pretreatment structure. So we're going to retrofit that on top of the existing pipe. And the balance of the runoff is either from the miniature golf course, roof areas, and the greenhouses, and outside of the paved parking areas. One of the key features of the project that we worked into this agricultural area for, again, this is the area where people build mini golf and also buy any products, is a rain garden. We wanted to make that a feature of the miniature golf design so people going through will be able to see an actively used rain garden. And of course, all the plant species in here, which I'll go through with you, would be available from the nursery. The rain garden overflows into a small detention area. And again, this is gonna pick up the flow from here and also other offsite areas, so we're trying to capture 100% of the runoff from the property, where right now it flows off the site. And the place to put that is at the low point, and that's why that's sited there. And of course, the actual basin is right on the edge of the 50 foot, so we did hold that here with the outfall going into it, where we have to get down and make up the grade. So, you know, of course, water has to flow downhill. The same thing with this basin back here. The balance of the property and also some other offsite areas come down through this way naturally. And we place a detention area here to help provide some mitigation and detention from runoff from other areas of the property. So our goal here was to try and pick up and treat as much of the property as we could. And that's why these two structures were placed here. Keep in mind that, you know, we're taking away area that they use for the nursery. So this is taking away area that they would prefer to have, I'm sure, for storage and use of the agricultural uses here. The other utilities, of course, the septic system, new septic system for the cafe, and this would be the area where you would buy your tickets for the mini golf, and there would be coffee and
Is this,
Would
is
available
this,
there.
is the miniature golf course gonna use some sort of artificial turf, natural grass?
I'll walk through that with you. Yep. So that's a good segue right into that.
Just one thing on the drainage, is there an increase in impervious area, or is there, what's happening?
It's a mix. It's a mix. So what we have going towards the wetland, we decrease the amount of pavement going towards there. The majority of the site now is either paved or kind of gravel or compacted dirt. And so we decreased the areas that are directly tributary to it. We cut back on the pavement. However, in the actual parking area outside of the buffer zone, there was an increase in the pavement. So, but you know, again, that was outside here, and we focus most of our effort and energy on this area closest to the wetland.
Okay.
So this would be a blow up of the miniature golf area. You can see as you cycle through from hole 1 around out through hole 18, and there's a little 19th area where you put your ball in to deposit it at the end. The green here with the kind of the speckles on it, that would be all your landscaped areas. So this is where the products would be for sale for consumers to purchase if they felt inclined to while mini golfing. The surface for the actual turf for the golf, you've all been on them, it's an artificial grass surface. The paved areas, these are all built on top of crushed stone, so the idea is they can't put drains on these because you need to golf over them. So they put little breaks on the edging where the water's gonna flow down and out and underneath it, and it's overlaid with crushed stone and pipe. So effectively, this entire area will have an infiltrative surface underneath it. So the water's not going directly through, but it's going around and back under into the stone. And we didn't, you know, we modeled this as impervious, but just so you know what's going on in the actual construction of it, that's how they build it. So to answer your question, that's how it's gonna be constructed. I also brought a blow up of the rain garden for you with the representative plants that were proposed on the plan here, prepared by the Noonans. So we tried to select native plants that you can purchase and use for rain gardens. They'll be tolerant to drought and also to temporary inundation by stormwater. I won't go through the specific ones, but there's a mixture of grasses and ferns and perennial flowers, and also some trees as well in that area.
And just to interject, the design of the miniature golf area is not something that we have concocted. This is a company that did this, is something that this is what they do. So it's tried and true, and it's, like I say, it's not something that we have just tried to piece together.
Will there be restrooms available for the golfers?
Yeah, so again, it's outside of your buffer zone, but this is just a perspective of the proposed cafe restaurant area that will be serving the miniature golf. So there will be food and beverage served here. They obtained their zoning relief for that from the Board of Appeals. We're currently before the planning board, kind of vetting the site design and the rest of the property through them. And I just wanted to bring that to show you what that would look like. That's where your restrooms would be located.
In the cafe.
In the cafe.
So you put in a new septic system or use the
Yes.
existing?
No, there'd be a new septic system going in.
And you said the people that would eat there aren't necessarily golfing, they can be just coming to the nursery or,
Getting an ice cream, they're gonna move the existing ice cream parlor from here into this building here, so that's all gonna be consolidated.
Is with the proposed cafe, is the existing septic system on site gonna be adequate for this addition?
Nope, there will be a new septic system, that's the green here that I've highlighted.
Okay.
So there'll be a new septic system installed as part of the project, as well as the other utilities, gas, electric. Water will be extended off the existing water main. We got a very, a small portion of this falls within the buffer zone here, so. And that's it. We're happy to entertain any questions you might have.
I have a question, the plantings that are gonna be part of the miniature system, you said they'll be for sale? Or they'll be representative of things that are for sale in the nursery?
They
So
are
they'll be
for-
permanently planted?
No,
Oh,
Okay.
Pots?
they're in pots, it will be, vegetation would be seasonally changed.
Okay.
Alright, so, and the whole issue is so that people can see how plant specimens look together.
Are you gonna have double pot systems so that you're not disturbing the soil every time? So I think that would be potentially clog your infiltration and stuff like that.
The rain garden, we hadn't talked about that being pot, were we talking about planting those?
The rain gardens were gonna be permanent.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I'm just thinking all the other beds are feet away from your gravel infiltration. If you're digging up these plants and like putting new ones in, it just
Well,
seems like
these would
the
be, they'd be sitting on the ground, and some would be bald,
Oh,
and some
okay.
would be in pots.
So you're not
Yeah.
necessarily planting them in the ground, it's just sitting on the top with some
If
irrigation on it.
anything, you'd simply mulch over the balls.
Got it, okay. I'm just thinking soil disturbance
Mhm.
on a regular basis would clog your system.
You don't want them to throw new root.
Correct, yeah.
All right,
I'm just,
so-
I mean, you could do a double pot system where it's sunk into the ground a bit to make them look at the right level, otherwise they're sticking up higher. I was just trying to understand what you're
Mhm.
But then we can't vary the size of the pots.
exactly. Okay.
And you did say that all the drains now will not be going into the wetland, but into the detention.
So it's a mix, so. if I could. So again, this is the municipal main coming through the site, and yeah, there is some site area draining to it. We're gonna repair a pipe here that's not working too well, but over 82% of this runoff is from off-site sources, so we're not doing much with that, because most of it isn't their runoff. What is their runoff from the site is this main here, and we're gonna retrofit that with a treatment structure, so we can meet the treatment standard for it. And then through the use of these detention areas and the rain garden, provide the additional mitigation and renovation of the stormwater runoff. So with the exception of it's about a 2-acre section, a large chunk of that is all roof area, that's going through this pipe, everything else will be mitigated. And we classified this portion as redevelopment because we took some of the pavement that was draining to it away, so we reduced the tributary pavement to it. That's what we did there.
And I think it's important to note, this is not water generated on site. This is water generated from development that has occurred up on the hill. And
Across the street.
I'm
Yeah.
not saying way up on the hill,
Oh,
yes.
whatever.
Away.
And is really just using the Newlands Nursery as a conduit.
But to that point, it's a percentage, it's not all. So some of it is, I mean, I think 20%, or give or take, is. Is there any, so you're putting that, some treatment of the other one, which is 100% from the site. A lot of these things, when you talk redevelopment, there's some improvements, can you kind of suggest which one of these are improvements? Because you kind of have to go above and beyond. There's some standards where you kind of make improvements to existing. Is there any way of treating some of that 20%, if you can get 20% of it, which is yours? Maybe not show the numbers to 100%, to your point, 80% isn't, but
Yeah.
why not try to get some of it?
It's,
Because you can. I mean, you're digging everything up, and it's a perfect time to do it.
it is a good time, and we met with Peter Durkee last summer in going through this, and I think the challenge here is that they did volunteered to put this on the property because there's nowhere else for him to put it. There's no easement for it, this was kind of, they were trying to be a good resident of the town, good steward. It's expensive to do anything with that. If we're to treat that volume of runoff, your treatment structure is not the one we have here, which is very affordable and perfect for these scenarios. We're talking about a much larger, much more expensive type of structure. And really the places where we can put it to capture everything, it's all in and around green, this goes under the greenhouses here.
Yeah.
And right next to the building, so it's gonna be challenging to excavate and do stuff there, so. It was cost prohibitive is what we were talking about with.
So are there any other areas that you can make kind of improvements above and beyond, just to kind of offset some of that, not being able to capture that 20%?
Correct me if I'm wrong, Scott, but we're not doing anything to that portion of the parking lot except restripe it.
Yeah, there'll be some
The-
select resurfacing of the pavement, some minor grading changes, but what we did, and what we represent in our report is we took some of the tributary pavement away from that, so we were trying to reduce the burden on the system. And it's percentage points, because not a lot of it is coming from the site, but we tried to scale that back.
I mean, it's not like that whole area is extremely pervious. I mean, so. it doesn't
And
really-
also a lot of it's out, again, a lot of it's outside the buffer zone.
Correct. I'm just looking at it holistically. There's a lot of water being generated on this
And,
property.
and some of the water that's on the pavement now is being generated, is being redirected towards the, miniature golf course, and that's the water that we're picking up.
Yeah.
So there is some mitigation on it.
Steve, that was the intent of this basin here, because
Capture the back
this was
half.
large, this was completely unmitigated.
Yeah.
Here, so we put this in here on the back of the property.
Are all the drains off the roofs
Well, I was
going in
gonna
any
ask,
direction,
yeah.
or are they just spilling out on the dirt?
A lot of them spill out. We did a very detailed investigation of everything. A lot of these are greenhouses, so they drip off and they're flowing around. The main garden center is tied in to this system. It actually goes this way and then comes back
What about
this
the
way.
roof drains on the cafe, where are those going?
Those are, the roof runoff from here is going into the rain garden, because we don't need to treat it.
And the parking is going to the rain garden?
Parking is going through a portion of the parking here, we're picking it up, is going through a new proprietary, it's a Contech, Fort Sentry system, so it's actually not the smallest, it's the second size up, but it's a proprietary retrofit structure. Where we're trying to go with the stormwater regulations and guidance these days is those are for these applications where you're retrofitting. We're trying to avoid them on new construction areas, but they're perfect for existing sites that are already, developed and urbanized. It's tough to, we obviously can't cut in a detention pond there.
So that's gonna go directly in.
And then that will go,
And that's where it goes
so
today?
and this is just renovation. This is just treatment of the runoff. Where we're doing the mitigation with these other structures, the detention ponds is where we're holding it back and making sure we're not increasing the rate of runoff.
Are you doing anything with the steep slope kind of surrounding that, the golf course there? I mean,
It's,
you're gonna basically leave that alone.
yeah, leave it alone. I mean, it's basically established with vegetation now. So if we're to go in there and change anything, we're exposing all that.
We have a planting plan to accommodate part of that towards, it's outside of your jurisdiction, but there's a planting plan coming up to where the greenhouses used to be and been removed.
How about a planting plan for inside the 50-foot buffer?
That's all in agricultural use.
Going forward, it's going to be?
Yes.
So, inside the pink line towards the wetland you're gonna pretty much use all the land that you've been using for the past X years?
Yes. We're gonna maintain our exemption on it, yes.
Because I thought we had discussed years ago, I mean, I've been informally discussing this, there was some discussion about, as part of all this, increasing a buffer, maybe up to 25 feet, just to give it more, again, I understand the exemption, but improvements and trying to make things a little bit
A
gentler.
lot of that becomes kind of hairy because it's bad enough that they're dealing with a wetland, all right? But you have to practice agricultural hygiene, and you have to be able to keep an area where you can treat so that your funguses don't come in and invade your plant stock.
And the other way around, too.
And the other way around too, yeah. So it's very important to keep that area and be able to manipulate it so that you can practice appropriate agricultural hygiene.
I mean, I agree, but I disagree, but that's, I just would be, I mean, buffer's always a good thing for whatever you are using up there and any you know, fertilizers and stuff like that, there's
Well-
very, very little buffer. If you have this flat compacted soil leading up to pretty much a cliff down to the wetland, there's no treatment going on. And I think historically, I thought that was part of the, at least in my mind, it was some
Yeah, I mean,
improvements to creating a buffer.
agriculture done wrong can cause a lot of pollution issues, so I mean,
Yeah, and see, before we go too much further down this path, let me clarify. You're talking about 25 feet, so.
Just some
Yeah, I'm scaling this off the plan
Yeah,
for you
yeah.
roughly so you can see it. I'll highlight it with this blue marker here. Okay, this kind of comes up around, this is coming up to the pipe, that's why that shoots up there. But this is about the 25-foot buffer, okay? Now I'm gonna highlight the top of the slope for what they're actually using. Okay, we'll do that in purple. So here's the top of the slope.
You came prepared with colored pens.
Oh, yeah.
Rainbow in
Can you tell?
Can't you guys tell the difference from there?
Here's about the top of the slope.
So there's already a 25-foot buffer?
So the slope isn't really being used, that's just, you know, they get to the edge of it and it dives off and that's kind of the boundary.
Oh, you said 6 feet earlier, that's the drop, that's not the linear.
That's right, that's the vertical drop down.
I thought it was
so
6 feet from it, sorry.
Sorry to, yeah, I wasn't clear on that.
So I was gonna say 6-foot buffer. I don't care about the agricultural hygiene when you're that close, but
so what
25
do you
feet's
actually,
fine.
what are you actually growing in that area? Just,
That would be potted stock.
so that's where you're just basically all the young plants, you just got them lined up out there?
Yes.
Okay.
The stockpiled soil that you have, somewhere this area here, is that going down that drain, the runoff? Is that what that is?
Right now it is tributary to that, yeah. Yeah.
Is that all asphalt in there, right? Or-
It's a mix, it's asphalt and gravel and it's a mix.
Also, I was looking at, there's an old order of conditions in COC for the property to the south of this, for that new house. And I didn't have a chance, I discovered this late today. It looks like they have the same lot number. Is this showing the entire property?
The house belongs to the farm.
So it's all one? Okay,
Yeah,
so when you
that's,
file
it's-
it, when you.
that's the way it was set up.
It's
because
under a
they
different
allow-
entity,
Okay,
in
but,
between.
but is it the same map and lot number? Cause typically you show.
No, that
It's
that
not.
one has a different map and lot.
Cause when I looked up really late in the day, I looked up the notice of intent you guys, that was filed for that house. It had the same map and lot number as what you guys are showing now.
Yeah, it might have
Just a
changed.
detail that needs to be clarified, because it might not, you might not be proposing anything there, but the regs require you to show the entire property, not just the portion you're working on. So
So
if that is in case included, it needs to be shown.
they might have given it a new number, it looks like
Since then.
after. Yeah, so they have it mapped is 1A now. in
Okay.
between.
Okay, cool. I just didn't have a chance to check the assessors on that.
Yep.
The outflows, you mentioned improving those and you had a detail of it. Are you just gonna do riprap spreaders or a plunge pool? What's the?
Yeah, actually, we've already done the outlets for the two existing ones,
Okay.
but we did detail what the proposed ones did, you know, and they did that at my direction. So we do have that little spreader, it's an 8 foot wide, and, well, scale off the plans is what I say, so
Okay.
it's about an 8 foot long, it's about an 8 by 8, it's about, 4 of these tables.
Did get an estimate for our standard third-party review on this, if you guys would like that to be done. Got a second copy for you guys to review again.
The nursery stock that you're watering, can it be fertilized organically with compost tea instead of something that's gonna be a salt?
Actually, most of the time, what would happen is an encapsulated, so it would be time released over a period of time. You can't depend on some of your teas if you're going to have seasonal growth in a pot. So basically, it's a typically, and correct me if I'm wrong, a pelletized fertilizer. Quite frankly, a lot of the farms are getting away from the NPKs and going to your micronutrients like.
Right, I guess that's not necessarily compost tea, but something not a salt fertilizer, could you, so that the runoff isn't contaminating the catch basins and stuff with high nitrogen.
Basically,
low.
the nursery stock that we sell, you you get them in, they are already charged with the slow release fertilizer when we buy them. We really don't fertilize them until, we don't fertilize them at all until they're gone. We get them in April, they're usually all gone by September, so there's usually enough charge in their containers that we don't fertilize at all.
I'd be more concerned about Friends with the Lawn than the nursery stock.
Does the commission want to do a third-party review on this?
Seems like an appropriate.
So just to kind of give you an idea, this is just kind of from a wetland regulation, state, local regulation review. This is not any heavy engineering. Typically, the planning board and the Concom kind of is pretty much doing the same review with different consultants. Because this is a redevelopment, I think they are making a lot of improvements. We can review it. We also get the comments from the planning board's review. So my request was just more from the wetland scientist angle and regulation review, which cuts the price in half pretty much. The other thing, just for the applicant's reference, we historically don't invite the applicant in for a meeting to discuss it, which gets kind of expensive. So it's $1,000 to have a third party come in and sit here and discuss these things. I can't, in my 10 years, remember, I think we've had a consultant come in once when there was more issues to be resolved. Yeah. I don't foresee that happening. And there's also, supplemental reviews. Again, if the information in the engineering is done properly, there's not typically a ton of secondary reviews. So this number, I think, is higher than it will be in the end. But to initiate this, we need a check for the total.
Is this typically double what planning board is? But we had to give the planning board a check for 4,000. This seems to be a lot more money than that, and with less amount.
Yeah, I do not believe that's the end of the planning board's review. I think that's what they charge just to get the process started. I do not, again, it's not my department, but typically their reviews take longer and there's a second, Did they give you an estimate for what it would cost, or did they say we need $4,000 towards a review? This is all you'll ever have to pay. It's kind of all inclusive.
So it's really up to the commission if, in motion, if the commission wants to do a third-party review. I'd also ask if the commission wants to do a site walk.
I like that.
Let's handle the third-party review first, and we can discuss the site walk.
Could I, just a quick question, I know this is your policy and practice. Is the planning board also engaging BSC Group? Is that, because I haven't seen a proposal from them yet.
They use Larry Graham.
Larry Graham
typically.
usually?
They use BFC for their construction review engineer.
Mm-hmm.
They use BFC for that, but they use Larry Graham for their. We're working on. We like our review people. They like theirs. We're trying to make them one because there's some efficiencies there, but we haven't been able to refine that yet. So they use Larry Graham. So third-party review and
Motion, anyone want to make a motion?
a discussion regarding a site walk.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we have a third-party wetland scientist review 269 Central Street, GCC 2015-04, DEP 161-0803. And also that we do a site review of the commissioners.
Site walk, you mean? Yeah. And Steve, you already have a quote from BSC?
Yep.
And would you like to re-motion that is having BSC do the site walk, do the third party?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we have BCS?
BSC.
BSC perform the site review.
They've done good work for us before.
I see the correspondence, yes.
Is there a second?
Second it.
We have a motion, and it's been seconded to have BSC conduct a third-party review of the notice of intent for 269 Central Street. And also to conduct a site walk. We would need a date for that, but,
We can work that after.
yeah. Is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? All abstaining?
And typically we do site walks on Saturday morning, 8:30, 9-ish typically.
Earlier the better for me.
For you guys too?
Yep.
So we have this Saturday, 25th,
Yes.
and then the 2nd next month. So in a couple days, next week.
Well, it's actually, getting light enough, you could actually do one after work too now.
You tell me. Is evenings okay?
Yeah, that'd be
I like evenings better personally.
Friday.
I don't
if
like you
it's
guys
6:30.
carrying.
Friday evening.
Nice.
No, evenings are good,
So
for
there's
me usually.
tomorrow,
5 o'clock.
6:30,
Okay.
first at 6:30.
Friday's good for me.
Any
Yeah,
preference?
That sounds fine.
Which one?
This Friday,
This Friday
So
at
tomorrow?
6:30?
Tomorrow at 6:30?
tomorrow at 6:30.
It's the 24th.
No, it's not the 24th.
What's today?
Sorry.
17, sorry,
Seventeenth.
sorry. Don't mind me.
Is that gonna give us enough time with the daylight?
Mhm.
Saturday?
Yeah, I think it's like 7:30.
Yeah, I think it's 7:30, the
Something
sun's
like
setting,
that.
I think, at this point.
Give us time for a round of golf.
Not yet. Ice cream maybe.
Okay.
Nice to have out the little mosquitoes.
They're out.
They're
They're
out.
coming out. Yeah, I got bit
Good point.
I,
last night.
yeah,
Already?
oh,
Yeah.
Really?
shoot alive.
6:30 p.m. Okay, and any other questions, concerns? I mean, I'm mostly interested in kind of the stormwater and just want to pick it apart a little bit more as far as if there's any potential improvements or buffer enlarging some of the buffer a
And
bit with some
just another-
enhancement.
Just another comment, relating to that, we should continue this after we get the third-party review back. Obviously, we want to have those results back.
Yeah, I mean,
Do we have did BSC give us a date when they could do the work?
I mean, they usually can start it pretty much right away. We can always continue it to the next meeting, next month.
Yeah.
And if it needs to be continued because we're not ready for it, but I prefer to keep it on the monthly, just to keep it on our radar. If we do get it back in time, then we're ready to rock and roll. Otherwise, we'll just push it off. As long as, I mean, I presume, even if it's just a brief 10-minute discussion of what's going on, I think it's important to keep it rolling.
All right, and I guess timeline for the project, is this something you're looking to do right away, this year, next year,
We're about a year behind.
year behind?
Already.
When do you wanna?
We'd like to get the miniature golf in this summer.
Okay.
The nursery business interferes with
And is that National Heritage Area, Steve?
I don't believe so.
No?
It's just the. One quick question, is there a formal easement for that drainage going through there? I didn't see anything on the plans. There's
There's
none?
no easement.
Is it worth getting one just for a more clean, transparent process? I mean, it's not, I mean, while we're doing all the paperwork and all the engineering.
Probably got a prescriptive easement already.
I'd love it if we could put some type of treatment in before it gets too far into your property, even if it's partially town paved, just to improve that. If there's any, openness to that, I think it would go a long way as far as helping, because there's still 20% treatment that you're not doing 20% or whatever the percentage is.
I don't think the Flynn's would mind any improvement that the town wants to do on the town's dime. So if they
Just let me stop, did I call the question on that motion?
No, you did not.
Oh,
I
okay.
just wrote down all, because
So, all right,
usually
all
it's
right.
unanimous.
So let me call the question on that last motion to do the third-party review and the site walk. And we're doing the site walk on the 17th at 6:30.
Correct.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, all abstaining. Motion carries. Just wanted to make sure we got that. Let's see. And let's see. Is there any abutters to 269 Central Street out there? Seeing none. Okay. Any further questions at this point, or are we ready to continue? I'll entertain a motion to continue the notice of intent for 269 Central Street.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to continue the, notice of intent for 269 Central Street.
And that would be to May 14th at,
7 o'clock.
maybe, no, it's gotta be like 7:30.
Oh.
You already have
You're right, we got one at 7 and 7:15.
Yeah, 7:30.
7:30, I think. I think we have one at 7:15, right?
Correct.
You do.
Yeah, we have 7.
So you're gonna remotion to 7:30.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to continue the notice of intent for
269 Central Street.
269 Central Street to 7:30 on
May 14th.
May 14th.
A second?
We have a second. We have a motion and a second to continue the notice of intent for 269 Central Street to 7:30 on May 14th, 2015. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? All abstaining. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, and we'll see
see you
you
tomorrow.
tomorrow.
Yeah.
Click on-
If any commission appreciate it if you could have them ahead of time, and we can advance it.
Noted.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Meeting minutes. There's a list of 3 of them. I know one of them came out very recently and potentially haven't looked at it.
I did not look at that.
If you're not comfortable doing them tonight, just, you can take this as a reminder to look at them. We can send them out again next week, just so you have them fresh and with a little.
Yeah, did
Alert.
did
Flag next
anyone
week.
have, but we don't wanna get too far behind our minutes. I mean, they're out there published. I wanna, if we're not doing them tonight, then make sure we do them first thing in the next meeting,
We'll,
because
we'll resend them out next week. Just, if you haven't looked at them, check them out, get your comments back, or bring them in writing.
All right.
put it on the agenda again for this, so we can start off
It's
with,
always there.
highlight it.
You got it. The other thing I have just is kind of for good practice. Tonight's meeting went very fast, and I think in order to kind of continue that,
I want to really develop an SOP where we're not here till 11:30 at night. And the
That would be
reason
great.
being, I don't think really good decisions come out of meetings that are at 11:30.
Yeah, we just.
And it's
wanna
really
get
not
outta
fair to
here.
the public that we're doing these meetings that late. And we really should have a timeline that it's like a cutoff point.
because a lot of time one discussion will go circular for 20 minutes and 30 minutes, and it doesn't really, so often this, the commission, opens it, the applicant makes a presentation for 5 minutes or 10 minutes. Then the commission's given 10 minutes to ask questions, then abutters are given, but it's boom, 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 versus where, again, to be fair, we open it to everyone, and anyone can kind of chime in at any time, but it kind of breaks things up and gets a little chaotic. And I think it'd be nice to come back and have a little more rules of, technically we're supposed to all ask Carl as the chair.
Should be going through
Mr. Chairman,
Carl.
can we speak? And we're very loose about it,
I'm
which is
just-
great.
I would just like to see us, again, a hearing can be continued and you can reopen it for public comment each time, but just not, I'm trying to keep, within a timeline. And that allowed us to get out with a reasonable amount of, time at night. And everyone wants to go to bed and not be up till 11:30 at night, having to get up to work to go the next day. And, again, it's not fair to anyone. And again, I don't really like the decisions that come out that late at night, because people just wanna go home. And they're not sometimes thinking things through as they should. It's like, I just wanna get out of here. So I think it will work better if we try to keep to a timeline and try to have a succinct meeting, get out of here, say, by 10 o'clock at the latest, and hopefully even before that, and
Yeah.
just,
So I'll come up with kind of a proposal.
Yeah.
And at the next meeting, we can kind of, at the first thing, vote it in and say, we are gonna stick to this, and I can keep track of time, and I can respectfully cut things. I mean, I'll often signal to Carl, but you know, if we're still moving along, you know, if you guys give me the authority to pretty much chime in and say, you know.
Yeah, I mean, in the
you got
past,
30 seconds
in
or
the
a minute,
past, we
you know.
haven't sometimes wondered because there's been some progress in the discussion and you kind of don't want, while the thought's in your mind, you don't want to just cut it off, but we really should say, look, you know, if we establish the protocol, the applicants know that too, so as we start to approach these periods, they know, okay, we're gonna have to wrap it up for tonight.
Like last week, it wasn't Industrial Way went on for like an hour or so, I don't know.
It was an hour and a half.
Hour and a
Oh, that
half.
was in
Time
February.
flies.
It was a-
At 9:30 we
You're
got
here
it.
like till 11.
But there was a lot of new information being presented.
There was, I mean, it wasn't
Yeah.
wasted,
But it did, towards the end, it did get circular, but there was a lot of good information up front, but
Right.
then you hit that wall and just, you know.
start repeating.
Is that
and-
a figurative wall or a literal wall?
Excuse me, pun.
A little bit
Um,
of both, I guess.
So I have a bunch of bills to pay. Reimbursement for phone and for Camp Dennison caretaker, $240. Work on the outdoor shower, Camp Dennison, $500. Porta potty rental, $250 for one of the events. They had some septic system, issues, $1,200,
At Captain Dennison.
yeah.
Was that in the newly installed septic or the original one?
The new system has not actually gone live yet, because the bathhouse hasn't been updated, so they have a capped septic system that's never seen any material yet. Propane or oil, I can't tell, maybe propane for fuel, $578. Camp Dennison order of condition and certification registry. So when we issue an order of conditions, what you guys don't see happens behind the scenes is the applicant has to register it. At the end, they have to register the COC. Historically, we kind of create two different classes of citizens. We don't register our own orders. It just never gets done. No one pays attention to it. Susan has been great about kind of trying to get everything up to par as far as having things signed off and closed out. So this is $300 to have the Camp Dennison culvert and a whole bunch of work we did there get registered and closed out properly. Office supplies, $50. And that is it for bills.
Any questions on the bills? I'll entertain a motion to pay the bills as read by Steve.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we pay the bills as read by Steve.
We have a motion, and it's been seconded to pay the bills as read by Steve. Is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All abstaining? And do we have any other business to address?
Sending around just a quick little thank you letter. John Bell, if you haven't noticed, has been missing for a little while. He actually resigned from the commission. He's been on for 12+ years and provided a lot of Reese's peanut butter cups and some
Okay.
Yeah, I think.
a lot of time. So this is just a little letter just thanking him for all of his time and service to the commission and to the town.
Will he be replaced?
So we have an open position. Anyone that knows anyone or anyone at home that's hearing this that wants to sit on, I've notified the selectmen. You know, they can reach out and try to find someone. We come by commissioners kind of randomly, how they, you know, they often will put on the website there's an opening, and often we pick people up as abutters that come into here and they kind of discover what we do and they get interested. And
Well, I think this is a good idea in terms of, I mean, lots of people volunteer lots of time to the town, and they don't get a lot of thanks for it.
And if nothing else, they can get a thanks from, you know, this group who we've been working with for a long time. Got a whole bunch of stuff to sign as far as certification of compliances. This is on 92 Thurlow Street. It's just a septic system. Pretty standard stuff. So this is the letter to John.
Thank you.
Certification of compliance for 342 Andover Street. This is an order of conditions for 211 Pond Street, which you guys approved tonight. We don't need votes on any of these, so you can just start signing and pass around whatever you want. Thank you. This is a certification of compliance for the Camp Dennison that you voted on a bill to be paid for earlier. This is for the Pembrook culvert. Both of these are. So this is a town project done by Peter Durkee. He filed a notice of intent. Historically, they don't get recorded, they don't get closed out. There's no real closure to the document. Again, Susan is holding us to a good standard.
Yes, there is.
84 Nelson Street, this is another Camp Dennison, I believe. Camp Dennison closeout document. That's,
Yeah, this probably goes with that too.
I'm looking at them like, I know what they are, but what do I do with them?
These don't have to be voted on, do
Excuse me?
they? These are-
Nope, it's all administrative. These, there's 2 of each. Okay. It might be 3, but I might just do 2. Just, they're tired. We had previously signed some signing sheets for the order of conditions. In case someone missed a signature, we can kind of create a replica of that. So these are blank state and local order of conditions. When John left, we got new commissioners, all of a sudden those old ones kind of we had made now become worthless and useless, we can't use them in the future. So these are just blank order of condition forms. We don't use them, so for example, what happens sometimes that 211 Pond Street, there's a local and a state. Sometimes two of the commissioners tonight forgot to miss signing it, we'd have to chase you down Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then we risk missing a 21-day window. So it gets kind of hairy. So we've been having the commission sign these. Again, the only time these would get used is if you miss signing something. You can make the argument that, they can be used for evil stuff. And it's really, and it happens actually fairly often where the paperclip will keep the local and the state together and we forget to sign it, or we forget to bring it and it just doesn't get done. So this just helps us put up that and no problem. And we've done that historically quite a bit. Thank you.
Still signing.
And in the future, we will expect that we should get out of every single meeting at 8:30. Thank you.
No,
More coming.
more.
Lot of stuff.
Just a pause.
We'll be here till 11:30.
Sign slower.
At Camp Dennison, they said when they're gonna start that roadway work?
There's no, they didn't get the money from CPC,
Oh, they didn't,
so there's no project without money.
okay.
So CPC decided that it was not a worthy project
At least
to be
the-
recommended to go to town meeting.
At least this cycle. I mean,
This cycle.
I'm sure they'll,
This is-
they'll
this
is- Okay.
submit it again
All right.
This is the
next cycle.
second cycle that it's been proposed and passed on
Okay.
in pursuit of other projects. That's CPC's, decision. Lilibeth will be leading the charge going forward on projects like that. So at this point, we're patching the holes.
Mm,
Road work season is about to start.
mm,
What we do historically is Peter Durkee goes down and does the best he can out of what he has,
Yeah.
dumps some recycled asphalt down, and when the grader comes through, he makes a few passes and they roll it,
yeah,
and it is what it is. It will be rutted again by next year.
sure.
It really does need to be repaved. It needs to be paved for the first time.
Yeah, 'cause I went down and looked at it, and it looked like one area would be worth having a culvert in just to
Yep.
minimize problems in the future.
And also, you and I talked about the possibility of digging down and assessing what's under the spots that are sinking and
Right, there's
where
just
that
no
culvert-
good subsoils underneath.
So maybe that's why we
gravels.
dig deeper, over dig, and add some good material, because the asphalt It's gonna
Yeah.
fall apart just like the dirt is right now. So that's all I have on my list tonight.
Okay. I will then entertain a motion to close the meeting of April 16th, 2015 of the Georgetown Conservation Commission. Unless
Not all
everyone
of
wants to
us.
stay here.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we close the meeting of April
16.
16.
16, 2015.
Second.
Good motion. There's been a motion for second to close the meeting for April 16th, 2015 of the GCC. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? All abstaining? Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
Good work.